Power Hour with John Lee.
So we'll go to Columbine, 1999, Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. This is probably the most famous case of all. And it's two young guys in Columbine, Colorado, who are famous because they committed this high-profile school massacre. So who are they? Well, they grew up with money. They didn't grow up hard, not in that sense at least. The parents don't seem to have been abusive at all. It seems to be the opposite of that. And so they grow up with money and access to money and very liberal parents, there's a kind of irony in all this. And I say that because what they did with that liberty was to assemble an arsenal of weapons and bullets. Now, when you kill somebody, you eradicate their liberty, their freedom to be alive, to live. You take that away from them. So using that liberty that you've been given to buy things that will take people's lives just doesn't make sense. There's no continuation there in ethos or in philosophy. And apart from that, you're a fucking maniac, and what are you doing? And you can see they were building this arsenal of weapons and bullets and all this, and going out in the woods and shooting, and they were good. And they had loads of different kinds of guns, and they knew what they were doing with them as well. And they made several videos of themselves, school project videos where they're actually going in the school, practicing what they're actually really going to do, and giving that to the teachers. They've got a website in which they frequently threaten to kill people, everybody, specific people. One guy called Brooks, that was a friend of theirs, they threatened his life. Eric Harris threatened his life multiple times on the website. He had a fucking website threatening to kill people and go to the school. And he had bags full of guns. And he had, this Eric had several pipe bombs in his bedroom. I don't know what the parenting plan is here, but when your teenage son's got a load of guns and pipe bombs in his room, and he's threatening to kill people on his private website, and you do nothing about it, and he's out in the woods blasting everything he can see with a tree, with a gun, you've got there's serious problems here. And his best mate's the same. And so what did they do? They went and they planned all this out military fashion. They put bombs around the town in different places to distract the police. So they only caused a little fire, but people called the police, and the police had to go there to react to this. Small little town. It's actually called Littleton, the area where they lived. And so they had to go and investigate these little fires and big bangs. And what they'd done is they'd put bombs in the cafeteria of the school, and Eric Harris, who seems to be the leader, had actually studied the movements of people in the canteen to see when it would be most full, basically. And they'd gone in before that at some point. It's all very hazy, but in terms of what they can actually tell you. But they'd gone in there and planted bombs. And they're outside now, waiting for the bombs to go off. Because the plan is that the bombs are going to blow the school up and kill everybody. And the few people that manage to survive will come out the door, dazed and confused, and they'll get shot down by these two maniacs, Eric and Dylan. And that didn't happen. The bombs didn't go off. Didn't work. So they had to go in. Well, they didn't. But they did go in. And they walked in and started shooting people immediately. On site. And they walked around. They didn't run. They walked around the school. Shooting people. And I've seen interviews with some of the victims who are, and witnesses from the school, and they will never be right. They will never be right again. I'm sorry to say, I think they're scarred for life, those people, because they just walked around and just butchered people, just shot people in the face, cold as ice, and they were shooting injured people out the windows because they were at some phase, like they've gone upstairs and they were trying to get these people out of the building and get them into ambulances, and they see this. These two, Eric and Dylan, and they shoot the windows out and start trying to shoot the injured people that are downstairs on the floor outside, bleeding, or they're on stretchers. One guy who's already been shot and they paralysed him. They put him in an ambulance, and these two crazy maniacs are shooting the top of the ambulance. So he's in the back of the ambulance. He's already been shot. He can't move his legs. He only went to school. And they shut the ambulance doors and the bullets are bouncing off the roof of the fucking ambulance. I mean, how can that happen? How can that even exist? And after all these cases as well in the same country, and it's still, even when you get in the ambulance, you're not safe. Crazy. And then after all this has gone on for a long time, couple of hours, I don't know, hour and a half maybe, but too long, they committed suicide. Now, I've heard that they shot each other, and I've heard they shot themselves. I don't know which is true, but I know that they both died. And then there was a school bus that never appeared, that never turned up. So people were waiting for another school bus to arrive with loads of kids on it, and it didn't happen. The bus never came. It was a mistake. And the parents were left there waiting for a school bus that might have their kids on it, and it never came. So, by the way, the police were waiting outside during all this. I don't know what the procedures are, but they were waiting outside. Maybe they couldn't go in for legislation. I don't know why they were waiting outside, but they were. And these little bastards killed 13 people and injured 24. 24 people injured, 13 dead. Any meaningful changes in legislation or laws to prevent future cases? Not really, because 8 years later, in 2007, Sung Hui Cho, known as Cho, perpetrated the Virginia Tech massacre. So who's this kid? He's born in South Korea, and he's a selective mute, meaning that he basically doesn't talk. But he can, and he moves to America as a kid, and his parents very typically work really hard, but are also very distant from him. And he grows up in a $400,000 house, which is, I mentioned that because he acted the victim. He made videos in which he was the victim, but in fact, it doesn't appear that he was a victim of anything. He lived quite a nice middle class upbringing with a nice family, apparently. But he had this crazy fantasy life where his girlfriend was a space traveller, and he had a brother that was actually him, that was known as question mark, and he used to just refer to say, no, I'm not Cho, I'm question mark. And he received counselling for 4 years. He was recognised to have emotional, developmental, psychological problems, and he was counselled for 4 years. And even in his schoolwork, he praised the Columbine massacre. And Eric and Dylan Klebold referred to them as martyrs. For what cause, I don't know. But yeah, there was clearly a problem with this kid. Clearly a problem with him. And then he creates another alter ego and calls himself Axe Ishmael, which probably sounds hard to him in his head. Sounds shit in reality, but he thought it made him sound hard. So he calls himself Axe Ishmael, and he gets some guns, and he goes to the training places, and he does the target shooting, and now he's got a Glock and a 9mm or something like that, and he's got 2 weapons of death in his hands, and nobody to control him. So he sends videos to NBC where he's just rambling, and he's playing the victim card on every turn. Oh, you don't know what it's like to have this done to you and have that done to you. He had none of that done to him. And then he gets up at 7 o'clock in the morning and shoots a girl, and a friend comes over and she gets shot as well. So he goes back to his room and he rearms. He gets tooled up, as we say in Manchester. And during this, he sends a letter to various press agencies explaining, it's almost like a manifesto, explaining why he'd done this and what his justification was for doing this shit. And then he goes back and he chains up the doors so no one can escape. And again, he walks round just massacring people, shooting people up. And he killed 32 people and injured 23. Right, so he was paying some kind of homage to Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. They killed 13 and injured 24. Cho kills 32 and injures 23 in a very similar thing. but just at the Virginia Tech University, not at the Columbine High School. But absolutely repugnant. And this guy was clearly suffering from mental health issues. He was a selective mute. He wouldn't talk to anyone for years. And his writings, he wrote plays that were alarming. Somebody died in a horrific way at the end, normally him. Not good. There's clearly problems. You got, people who live with him saying, well, yeah, he was weird. He did this and he did that. And he was allowed to buy a gun and loads of weapons and then take them to fucking school and start shooting everyone up, which he did. And he killed 32 people and injured 23 as well. The Las Vegas shooting. And we don't know too much about this one anyway. But we know it's a guy called Stephen Paddock, and he did it 2 years ago, maybe 18 months ago, 2017. And he did it in Las Vegas. We know nothing about Stephen Paddock. Know nothing about the guy. Only that he had a brother and that he was a millionaire. And then one day, he sets up his macabre shop of death at the window on the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel and Casino. And, the guns and the ammo that this guy had, he had, 40-odd weapons. He had thousands and thousands of rounds of ammunition. And during his 6-day stay at the hotel, in which he went back to his house multiple times, he carried 21 suitcases through reception. Are you taking the piss? You try that in Manchester. Try going into the reception of a hotel 21 times carrying different suitcases. They're probably not going to think that you're going to kill people. They probably just think you're up to something. They're going to ask you at least what you're doing. Why have you got so many suitcases? But no. And it is a big hotel, to be fair, but, look at the gun crime and, there are good reasons to be cautious, which was demonstrated because he rented one room and he rented another room. And not only did they allow him to go up the lift multiple times with all these suitcases full of guns and ammunition, they actually carried it up for him. He had bags. He had at least one big, massive bag, and they put it full of guns and ammunition, and they put it on a trolley and put it in the service elevator and took it up to his room with him, and they all went up together to the hotel room, and they've helped him. They've helped him to his room with the guns and the bullets and all that. He's gone in there and he's set up shop at the window. He's got an adjoining room as well to keep more guns in, which he did. He's set a camera up on the trolley. He's ordered room service and he's left the trolley outside and put a camera on it, looking down the hall so we can see if anyone's coming. And then he's broken the window or he's extracted the window. So many different stories about that. And across the road is a concert. 20,000 people are attending a concert. Pure Americana, country music. This is what I mean by the American thing. It's not that these people are American. There are 20,000 Americans across the road from this idiot who are not trying to kill anybody. They're just going to a party. There's just one. 1 in 20,000 is not a bad number. But unfortunately, the one has got fucking automatic weapons and shit tons of fucking bullets. He fired 100 bullets in less than 1 minute into a crowd of 20,000 people from across the road with a high-powered carbine rifle or whatever he was using. He fired 10,000 rounds in 10 minutes. I don't know. My mate Johnny knows about guns. He told me this is crazy. 1,000 rounds. 1,000 rounds in 10 minutes. I don't know if I said that right the first time. And he still had 5,000 rounds left in his room that he didn't use. He even shot the police. The police turned up to try and help people, and he shot them as well. And, of course, they manage in the end to detect where this is coming from, and they go up to his room, and you can actually watch it. It's on camera. They go up to his room, and they boom his door, and they go into his room, and they find him dead. And so, of course, the dead guy did it. I don't know. It looks more like he was tricked or forced to do that, to bring those bags in. Maybe those bags weren't full of guns. It was a decoy. I don't know. But the story itself, that this 64-year-old man with no military training, we don't know anything about him, but we know he's a millionaire, gets you know, all these weapons and all these bullets up to his room in a hotel in Vegas where they knew him, and starts executing people that he doesn't even know, and then shoots himself in the head. I just don't see any sense in that. So yeah, I'm willing to consider other possibilities, because this guy killed 60 people and injured 411.